this 5 to 7 minute speech. She will speak about breaking the ice. Without any further ado, let me welcome onto the virtual podium Toastmaster Bindu with a speech title Break Ice. Break Ice by Toastmaster Bindu. Over to you.
Full circle. Don't you love circles? I adore circles. You know, things that go around, come around. And today I'm coming full circle. It's not the first time that I'm attending the mentor-mentee speech. In fact, sixth. Well, and I have done all shades of mentor-mentee speech. I have been a confused mentee. I've been in a museum of mentors. Mentor from hell, you would love to hear that one. But today, I am going back to the beginning. Let's start with the beginning. 3 years back, scene 1, post-toasties. I had just finished attending my very first Toastmasters Club meeting. I was confused. The prepared speeches, yes, they were inspiring and, well, the table topics, they scared the daylights out of me. What is going through my mind? No way am I going to suffer this torture every single week. But then a sneaky little thought came back and I thought, am I going to give up this fast? And with that in mind, I went in search of one of the speakers of the day. And I saw her and spoke to her. For this meeting, let her be called Mrs. A. So I asked her, could you help me out in preparing myself for this adventure, new adventure? And she said, of course. Believe it or not, in the next 5 minutes, you know what I learned? Mrs. A was actually a life coach, and her husband, Mr. B, also at the meeting, he was a speech coach. My next question was like, how much is this going to cost me? Wow. What they quoted was 7 times my fees as a consultation. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a doctor, a cancer specialist. I'm like thinking, this for 45 minutes of instruction? Mr. B saw my expression and he started on some dialogue about the quality and money, etc. That is not what changed my mind. What actually changed my mind was the thought that, Bindu, it's high time that you have been procrastinating on getting rid of your fear of public speaking. It's now or never. Scene 1. I had accepted and I had joined up for 4 classes, and it was supposed to be my first class. I was supposed to give my icebreaker speech. For those of you who are guests or unfamiliar with Toastmasters, it's a very first speech that you give as a Toastmaster, a 46-minute speech in which you introduce yourself to the other members of the club. Now, scripting this speech was not too difficult for me, but preparing it, I think I might have practiced it, 12 times? And there I was, that day in their backyard, lemon in hand. Didn't I tell you? The name of my speech was, If You Had a Lemon. Mrs. A said, come on, go ahead. You can start when you're ready. I looked at a point right between the heads of Mrs. A and Mr. B. I took my lemon. I looked at my lemon. I stared at my lemon. And then I glared at my lemon. Nothing happened. Mrs. A saw my expression, saw my fear. She said, why don't you take a walk around the garden and maybe drink a glass of water and come back? Dear friends, finally the ship sailed and I managed to give that 46-minute speech in 7 minutes. But it was so monochromatic. It was so boring. People say that, okay, you have melodic undertones to your voice. Believe me, this melody could have put anyone to sleep. I looked hesitantly at Mr. A and Mr. B, and I just wondered, Are they asleep? But no, they were smiling, and not fake smiles, genuine smiles. Mr. B said, that was a pretty good speech. I mean, I've not heard an icebreaker like that for quite some time. There's creativity, good flow, interspersed with humor. You have a skill there. I was like stunned. I mean, I never even considered scripting a speech as any particular skill. Now, you must be wondering, what happened to the story after that? Well, I sort of, what do you say, fast-tracked on my Toastmaster journey. I did attend session number 2, and I learned there is actually an entity called vocal variety and body language. As for session number 3 and 4, they never happened. But Mr. A and B, they became very precious friends of mine. And they taught me the most important lesson of all. What you require is, as a mentor, to identify that special thing in your mentee that maybe even he or she is not aware of, because that special property that they are good at, that quality that they are good at, it's there in everyone. It's your duty to identify it. And that, my dear friends, breaks the ice. It breaks the ice of that impenetrable wall of fear. After that, you build up on that. So now, dear friends, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I have come around full circle. And I am ready to break ice. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Bindu, for that wonderful and insightful speech. Timer Sudharma, please share the time taken by Toastmaster Bindu.
6 minutes and 39 seconds.
Okay. Toastmaster Bindu has taken 6 minutes and 39 seconds. Evaluators, you will have 5 minutes to prepare your evaluation. So, Malvika, if you could please transfer all the evaluators to the breakout room. And yeah, please confirm once it's done.
Suresh, can you join the breakout room, please?
And timer, please show the red card when 5 minutes are up.
Yeah, all of them are in the breakout room.
Thank you, Malvika. So, while the evaluators are compiling their evaluations, Toastmaster Akshay, I actually was very intrigued by your Toastmaster journey, and I'd like to ask you a few questions, if that is okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Um, okay. So, you have a very impressive public speaking experience. You have gone to district level contests and have been a runner up in 2 other district level contests. I was very curious. How did you start off with this journey? When did you decide, okay, I want to be a Toastmaster?
I think my journey in Toastmasters began in 2018 of April at the Morgan Stanley Bangalore Orators. My first experience encountering or experiencing a Toastmasters meeting was a year before when I was working in my previous company. So when I joined in 2018, I did have an idea of what it was about, but not a complete idea. I did know that it was a great platform to improve your public speaking and your leadership skills. And at the time when I entered Toastmasters in 2018, I already did have a bit of public speaking experience under my belt. And the main reason and the main motivation I had to join Toastmasters was to kind of polish what I already have accrued so far in terms of public speaking expertise. And looking back 5 years from now, I mean, it was probably one of the best decisions I've made.
Okay. Okay. So Toastmasters just amped it up. Whatever experience you currently you had.
Correct.
So I know for a fact that Toastmasters is good to improve your public speaking and your communication. But outside of a Toastmasters club, how has Toastmasters benefited your personal life or your career?
Oh, Hanuman, of ways. I think one of the best things about Toastmasters is that the more time you invest in Toastmasters, the more you see your social interactions improve, as well as your performances in office, especially ones that involve talking to your seniors, talking to your peers, or even making presentations, right? A lot of these things become a lot more polished and coherent once you actually go through the entire Toastmasters gauntlet and realize, oh, yeah, I've been using a lot of fillers in most of my conversations. Oh, that's right. Sometimes I do come off as a little dull. When a question is asked to me, it turns out I kind of ramble a lot for getting to the point. Some of these realizations don't come until and unless you kind of go through the Toastmasters journey and realize, yeah, these are actually things that you can work on and they really change your life.
Okay, so you're saying you become more conscious. Even I've noticed that you become more conscious when you speak
Yeah.
outside of Toastmasters.
Absolutely.
No, I've not been a Toastmaster from a long time. I've only been a Toastmaster since Feb of this year. But whenever I meet Toastmasters in our club, they ask me, how do I start off? And I know there is no perfect answer because I never had the perfect answer, right? Because I had mentors. But how can a Toastmaster take that step on their own to improve themselves and take on a steady pace? What suggestions do you recommend?
Be regular. I think that's the most important thing. A lot of people come into Toastmasters expecting results when they just invest maybe time in the form of one meeting a month or two meetings a month or maybe one speech every 2 to 3 months. That is not going to get you results. The only way you can get results in Toastmasters is the only way you can get results in any other field, whether it's tennis, whether it's your work, whether it's cooking. You need to get the reps in, especially in Toastmasters, given that most clubs meet on a weekly basis. My biggest piece of advice to any member listening right now, find a way. It's a very small amount of time every week. Find a way you can get into your club meeting and somehow get some speaking role and come out of that meeting a more improved speaker. That's what I'd recommend.
Just stay consistent and take on roles. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. But in the middle of your Toastmasters meetings, do you practice in any other way apart from your speeches? Is there any way you practice on yourself apart from preparing for speeches, apart from taking on roles? Do you do anything else?
Yes, and in the interest of time, I think there is many ways you can practice, especially improv speaking. Something I do recommend to my mentees all the time in my club and in the fraternity also. If you want to become a better improv speaker, every now and then when you've got 10 minutes of free time in your house, just look around your house, right? Take an item in your house, say there's a switchboard. Start talking about your switchboard for 2 minutes. You'll realize these small things eventually add up and make you a much better improv speaker when the time comes, when you're given a tough question and you just have to think on the fly. So improv speaking is one thing you can definitely practice outside of Toastmasters meetings.
Okay. Very insightful, Toastmaster Akshay. And thank you for answering those questions. So I think our 5 minutes are up. Uh, Toastmaster Malvika, if you can escort the evaluators back into the meeting bridge and let us know once it's done.
Okay, I'll bring them in one at a time.
Yeah, you can bring in the first evaluator, Toastmaster Vijay.
Okay. Vijay is here.
Okay, thank you, Toastmaster Malvika. Vijay, let me see. Okay, Vijay, please unmute yourself. Pin the timer video, Sudharma's video to your screen and let us know once it's done.
I'm sorry.
Can you please pin the timer video to your screen and let us know once it's done.
I'm not finding it.
The timer is Sudharma Pereira. You can just click on the three dots on top of your screen or video and then spin it to your screen.
Vijay, can you see the timer?
Yes.
I think that's a good enough, Aaron. We can continue.
Toastmaster Vijay, please repeat this line after me with hand gestures. Today is a good day. 1, 2, 3.
Today is a good day. 1, 2, 3.
Akshay, will you please confirm that the evaluator is both audible and visible?
I can confirm Vijay is both audible and visible.
Thank you, Toastmaster Akshay. Evaluator 1, Toastmaster Vijay Anandan. Evaluator 1, Toastmaster Vijay Anandan. You may now begin your evaluation.
Hello, Toastmasters and guests. Good evening. And my target speaker, Bindu. Your speech was very nice. It was about finding your mentor. You started with a great storytelling technique and you found your A and B mentor. And how did you develop the relationship with them? You demonstrated it very well. And then it's now or never, fear of failure from second mentor. And then how do you learn to break the ice? It was good demo for us. You had a very good expressions and appropriate postures, gestures when you used the lemon as a prop, and then you used that lemon to convey your message to the audience. It was very good. I have two recommendations which would help you to elevate your speech to the next level. One is you suddenly vanish from the camera. You could have used some other technique to demo how do you went through the garden as recommended by the mentor. And second is opening speech was rhythm of the opening was slow and then it picked up to the next level in the mid of the body of the speech, which was little fast. Then it was little disconnect. You can make it little bit rhythmic. The transition, if you have used, it would be great, and it will take your speech to the next level. In summary, it was a great speech, finding the mentor and how do you learn to develop your relationship with them. And then you use the techniques and you followed the techniques which was taught by the mentor, and then which was eye-opening and very good speech. All the very best for your next level. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Vijay, for that insightful evaluation. Malvika, so let's move on to the next evaluation. Malvika, if you could please prepare the second evaluator, Toastmaster Suresha.
I got Gokila on.
Okay, no worries. Toastmaster Gokila, just let's show here on the screen here.
Yeah, Gokila is.
Toastmaster Gokila, please unmute yourself, switch on your video and pin the timer video and let us know once it's done.
Yes, I can see. Pin the time.
Okay. Toastmaster Gokila, please repeat this line after me with hand gestures. Today is a good day. 1, 2, 3.
Today is a good day. 1, 2, 3.
Akshay, could you please confirm that the evaluator is both audible and visible?
I can confirm that Gokula is both audible and visible.
Thank you, Toastmaster Akshay. Evaluator 3, evaluator 2, Toastmaster Gokila. Evaluator 2, Toastmaster Gokila. You may now begin your evaluation.
I believe a mentor is someone who makes the mentee to see the hope in themselves. Very good evening, Toastmasters, and my target speaker, Bindu. Today, my target speaker, Bindu, has shared her experience and told about the quality of the mentor. And she also told about how she pushed her boundaries and break the ice with Toastmasters. First of all, I would like to congratulate my target speaker, Bindu, for delivering such a wonderful speech. What a lovely voice you have. It totally attracted me. I went back in your circle along with you and tried to experience all those things that you have faced in this 3 year journey. It was very well demonstrated with the clarity of your voice, that tone, and how you varied your voice when you're just scared, when you just entered into the Toastmasters, and also when you told when the B has told the huge price, and how you tried to demonstrate it that, oh no, it's so high, you're feeling you are inside, and how you showed that to us. It was so good. And finally, you showed us the lemon. You are trying to interact the audience with that, and showing how you delivered the speech that day. You are very well comfortable when you are delivering the speech. You had good gestures. It was totally a great speech, Bindu. I just have two things to share with you. You had a good voice and good voice modulation throughout your speech. At some places, I felt your voice was in a same pace. For example, the same instance when you are scared, you could have bit lowered your voice and told, I was a bit scared. That was one thing. And when you wanted to give some pause, when this Mrs. A and Mr. B with the conversation, there I was expecting for some pause when you have ended the conversation with Mrs. A. But your speech had good vocal variety and the pauses, but there were just this few instances I noticed that you could have balanced in your speech such that the speech will be in a very great next level. So overall, it was a totally wonderful, beautiful speech that was delivered here today by sharing your experience. And I would love to hear more of your speeches. Just try to balance the pause and the vocal variety, which you have already delivered it. But I'm congratulating you once again and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Kokila. Let us move on to our third and final evaluation for today. Malvika, if you could bring in the third evaluator, Toastmaster Suresha, into the meeting bridge.
Yeah, he's in the room.
Toastmaster Suresha, please. Okay, I see that you have unmuted yourself and switched on your video. Can you please pin the timer video to your screen? Let us know once it's done.
Sorry, what I need to do, Arun?
Just pin the timer video to your screen. The timer, Toastmaster Sudharma. Can you pin a video to your screen?
Is the timer visible to you, Suresh?
Yeah, I can see timer. Yes.
Okay. I think that's good enough. Toastmaster Suresha, please repeat this line after me with hand gestures. Today is a good day. 1, 2, 3.
Today is a good day. 1, 2, 3.
Toastmaster Akshay, will you please confirm that the evaluator is both audible and visible?
I can confirm that Suresha is both audible and visible.
Thank you, Toastmaster Akshay. Evaluator 3, Toastmaster Suresha. Evaluator 3, Toastmaster Suresha, you may now begin your evaluation.
Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, and Toastmaster Bindu in specific. First of all, I need to congratulate you, Bindu, for that wonderful speech. I really liked your speech. What a great opening you brought as part of the speech. And you spoke about the Toastmaster journey, which we all can relate. And you also spoke about your mentor-mentee relationship, how you have approached the mentors and how that conversation happened, and you always have that attitude of seeking the help, seeking the support of the mentor. And then you spoke about your icebreaker speech and how much of effort and how you have delivered that icebreaker speech. So if I need to um, talk about the three areas you really did well, one is I really like the structuring of your speech. It has a great opening, body, and conclusion. Second thing which I really like the most is your hand movement. I mean, like, though it is virtual, but we can still see your hand movements and the use of the stage. In fact, I mean, like, you were some point of time you were just going out of the screen and coming. I mean, like, that's how, I mean, you were using that the stage, in fact, which we all look for. And then use of property. I mean, like, you use that lemon as a property, and you just show that lemon, and we all can relate and connect to that story. And so always properties bring life to the story, right? So well done there. And third thing which I really liked about your speech is the conclusion. Like, I really like the conclusion, and you could able to tie it back to that what is the speech title, which is break the ice, and break the ice of fear. So we all can relate it. Two things if I need to suggest as an improvement. um, One is introduction of the characters of mentors, right? And you spoke about mentor A and her husband mentor B, and I felt somewhere maybe that introduction of characters could have been done little more better in terms of changing a different tones for them, or in terms of changing your positions, etc. I understand little complex when it is virtual, but a bit of a movement to differentiate the mentors and yourself. And second thing I noticed is more of a voice modulation. I mean, the voice modulation could have been a little more better. So it was there, but it could have been little more better. Some point of time it was a kind of monologue. That's what I noticed. But otherwise, I think it's a well drafted speech. You have put in a lot of effort, I'm sure. I mean, like, that is very much visible in your speech delivery. You are very confident. And you did a really great job, Bindu. All the best for your next speech. Back to you, contest chair or Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Suresha, for the wonderful evaluation. Toastmaster Akshay, do you want a couple of minutes to evaluate the speech and the evaluator?
No, I'm good to go.
Okay, over to you, Toastmaster Akshay.
Thank you. Can I confirm if I am audible and visible? Lovely. Okay, so let's get into the performance of today's evaluators. How I'm going to structure this is I'm just going to, what I'm going to do is I'll probably start by presenting my evaluation for the target speaker, who is Toastmaster Bindu. And after that, we will get into the specifics of the evaluations presented by Toastmasters Suresha, Gokila, and I believe the last person was
Vijay, Toastmaster Vijay.
all right. So Toastmaster Bindu, today you presented a project, and the objectives of your project was to tell us about what you've learned in the guise of a mentee. What is it that you have learned from your mentor figures in your life? You chose to use a Toastmasters example, a mentor that you found in the Toastmasters circle. Let me start by what I felt were the positives. Bindu, I think the best thing you've got going for you in terms of your public speaking repertoire is a very technical one. You're very expressive. I have a feeling you've not heard this. You've definitely heard this before. There were several points in your speech where I thought your expressions were very apt for the sentences you were delivering. For example, at one point you said it was so monochromatic, so boring. And the way you just shifted your eyes like that. And there were other examples as well when you talked about not fake smiles, genuine smiles. And every time you change your expression in those subtle ways, it really did feel like you were emoting a lot better compared to, say, a speaker who generally goes off and reads the script without really wearing their emotions on their face, which is what I really liked about your speeches. And in this speech in particular, your facial expressions were the highlight. Secondly, there were definitely slivers of great and good vocal variety usage. A few. For example, at one point you used a pause very effectively with a question mark where you said, scripting the speech was not so difficult, but preparing for it. And the way you brought your voice from low to high and that small pause in between was very effective. And this is where I probably transition into my areas of improvement for your speech. I'm going to structure your areas of improvement from the most important that need to be addressed and work my way downwards. Toastmaster Bindu, I felt one of the things that really could improve in the speech was to really highlight in a more obvious manner what were the learnings you got from your mentor. For example, as per my understanding of the story, your mentor taught you, and I quote, to find something that's special in you to help break the ice. Okay, so you're essentially telling us that the mentor helped you find out a part of yourself. But what is it that you learned from him? What was the area of your public speaking that you really excelled at after 3 years of having him be your mentor? Was it in something specific, for example, vocal variety? At one point in your speech, you did say that after you finished your first icebreaker speech, you knew that vocal variety was next. But what happened to that journey after you started your pursuit for better vocal variety? Did it pan out? Did you have a speech where, and I quote, the monochromatic speeches that you used to deliver earlier were alleviated? That was unclear for me. Secondly, at many points, the structure, and I noticed the timer is timing me. You don't have to time me because I'm not following the traditional timing anyways. Secondly, I felt that the structure at many points left me a little hanging. To begin with, you started with an introduction that stated 3 years back, my first Toasties, which I assume you meant your first Toastmasters event, because that's what I heard. You talked about your first experience, and then midway through, you suddenly said, scene one. Now, I thought to myself, wait, what is scene one? Was that scene one, or are we going to see scene one? So I thought, okay, here is scene one. And scene one ended up being your interactions with your mentors for your first icebreaker speech. But there was no scene two. There was no scene three. It was just a sudden addition of one scene in between. And that kind of felt a little dissonant with the entire structure. Because you had the start which talked about full circles. And again, I reiterate, I didn't really see the full circle there. What was the full circle you really achieved after that first interaction with your mentor? Did you have a speech experience later on where you displayed great vocal variety? That was the story which I would have liked to hear. Cap off your speech to make your mentor seem far more effective and to make your journey of progress also highlighted a bit more. Last but not least, two minor points. The pace at the beginning of his speech was very fast. It was very fast. And the start of a speech is so fundamentally important. I believe, and I quote, the moment the timer started, you said, full circle. Don't you like circles? First time, in fact, 6. In fact, there was a sentence that I didn't even quite understand where you said, first time, in fact, 6, which I was not sure what you were referring to. Was it your first Toastmasters meeting or something there? But that bass was so rocky that that same feeling kind of stuck through for the remainder of that speech, right? So what I would recommend for introductions, keep them slow, keep them crisp and very clear and concise. Try to leave more complex architectures and structures of your speech to later on, but the base should always be strong. And the second minor area of improvement is definitely you can experiment with vocal variety, specifically your pitch. Can you experiment with low pitches? Can you experiment with high pitches? This is something you really need to work on and put into your speech. Imagine if your last sentence, as opposed to being, I'm ready to break the ice, ended up being, I am ready to break the ice. Suddenly, a bit of pitch control made that ending so much more impactful. Couple of things that you'll have to think about. So those are my areas of improvement for you, Toastmaster Bindu. And with that, I would like to get into the specifics of what our three evaluators did. Let's start with Vijay Anand. Vijay Anandan, I believe you are there. I see you. Hello. Vijay Anandan, you told us that her speech started with a great storytelling technique. But what was that technique? I was not sure. Was that a word you just threw in there? Or were you going to go into what that storytelling technique was? So that's something to remember. If you mentioned that there was a storytelling technique she used, I would have liked to see you follow through on that. At another point in your evaluation, you mentioned to her, and I quote, you talked about your second mentor and how to break the ice. Again, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, the speech was about one mentor, which was Mrs. B. So I didn't know what you exactly meant by second mentor. Is it that you probably misspoke? And these details are important for all evaluators here. Every word's meaning counts. If you use a word that throws off and is very different from the speech that I experienced, the judges, especially the judges, are going to be asking questions. What did he mean by a great storytelling technique? What technique? Who is the second mentor? These are not the questions judges want to be having during a contest. My recommendation here is to keep your language simple. I definitely didn't do an evaluation just 2 minutes ago. Mine was a little more casual. But you notice the language I used was very simple. It was very crisp, very clear. I didn't try to be very fancy. And I was rest assured that people understood what I was talking about. So always make sure your language is clear. You talk about how she used appropriate gestures. When you are praising a speaker, follow it through with an example. For example, Toastmaster Bindu, I felt you had a very appropriate gesture. For example, at that one point where you did XXX, and right? A good example to substantiate your highlights and your areas of improvement is mandatory. Because if you don't have an example substantiating your highlight or your area of improvement, the loop isn't complete. All right. You mentioned that an area of improvement was that she vanished from the camera, and I would politely disagree. I thought, if anything, that was the more memorable moment of the speech, where she utilized her setup to the point where she wanted to say that, okay, her mentor told her to go take a walk, so she went, and she literally went off camera, and I thought that was kind of cool. So I don't know if that would be cited as an area of improvement. Another thing was, and I quote, you mentioned in your evaluation, opening was slow and body was fast. Make the transition more rhythmatic. I didn't quite understand what you meant by that, which again harkens to my original point. Make sure the feedback you're providing is clear, right? And the target speaker especially, understands what you're trying to tell him or her. And I think that is essentially my feedback. I will get to another point, Vijay, which is common for all the three evaluators. Coming next to Toastmaster Gokila. Gokila is on call. So Gokila, here are some of the scribblings I wrote for what you talked about. You mentioned that your personal opinion, I believe a mentor is someone who helps them see the hope in themselves. So you told us about how Bindu told about the quality of the mentor. You told us how, and I quote, Bindu's mentor helped her push her boundaries. This was not demonstrated for me in the speech. Her mentor made her feel secure about her current state. And her mentor simply made her feel you've got some talents, which I really think you need to find in yourself. What did the mentor do that made her feel that she could break boundaries? What was the anecdote that Bindu used that highlighted, oh, wow, that broke boundaries? In my opinion, that anecdote was missing. So this statement of how you told her that she pushed her boundaries was unclear to me. You did mention that you congratulated her for delivering a speech, and I believe Suresha also spent some time congratulating the speakers. Let me give an umbrella piece of advice to all speech evaluators here. There is really no need to spend time on congratulations and applauses or anything of that sort, because in a speech evaluation contest, you've got 3 minutes and 30 seconds of grace. Every second counts. So you really can avoid these kind of fluff pieces and just focus more on the analytical feedback, which, by the way, is what the speaker will find the most helpful, right? So something you can definitely avoid. At one point, Gokila, you said you have a lovely voice. In fact, your exact quote was lovely voice you have. And the demonstration you used, you told us that the example which highlighted this is the part where she spoke to Mr. B. and he mentioned that the price was huge. Again, I felt there may have been other portions of the speech, in fact, a few other portions where the vocal variety, especially the way she used her voice, was highlighted. But this sentence in particular didn't feel like it highlighted her vocal variety in the best manner. I thought it was all right. So you could have used a more appropriate example. You mentioned that Toastmaster Bindu was comfortable, very comfortable. I agree with you. I believe she was very comfortable as well. In her areas of improvement, you said Toastmaster Bindu could use more vocal variety. Then you went on to give a demonstration with the statement, I was a bit scared. And in my opinion, I didn't feel the vocal variety was demonstrated as efficiently from your end. For example, Toastmaster Bindu, I felt there were many portions in your speech where you could have used vocal variety. For example, in the sentence, I was a bit scared. Now that was me using vocal variety. But when you delivered it, you used it in a pretty much the same tone as you were in the sentence prior. So if you're spending time for demonstrations, pause for a second, get into character, and then demonstrate it, because suggestions and demonstrations are so important. And if you get them wrong, then maybe the speaker is confused. What exactly did she do different that I didn't do? So this is why that's very important. You mentioned that the speech had good vocal variety. I felt that her vocal variety was one of the areas of her speech where she was challenged the most. So I wouldn't completely agree with this. And again, evaluations are subjective. So if you are going to say that her speech had good vocal variety, we need examples. Similar to what I said for the first evaluator, we need examples to substantiate it. Otherwise, it just doesn't hold valid. What is an evaluation? An evaluation is almost like you being in a courtroom and you're a lawyer. If you don't present enough evidence, your case is rejected. It's as simple as that, right? Next is speech and your conclusion. You mentioned, Toastmaster Bindu, your speech was totally wonderful. I disagree. And this is an issue that most Toastmasters face in the fraternity. I refer to it as a superlative conundrum. Words such as wonderful, fantastic, stupendous. These are words that you needn't use simply to make the speaker feel better, right? So let me hand the olive branch to you. Yes, it is important to be encouraging when giving an evaluation, but not at the cost of sounding disingenuous and like as if you're not meaning it. And the issue with this is when you end up using words such as wonderful, fantastic, superb too many times and to describe everything, then it's lost its meaning, right? My biggest piece of advice for anyone doing an evaluation, grade yourself. Use the scale good, very good, great, excellent. If you thought vocal variety was good, say good. Don't say excellent. If you thought there was a joke which added to the speech or the humor was very good, say very good. Don't say wonderful. Be very careful with the adjectives you use to describe a speaker. Because if you come and say an icebreaker was fantastic, well, what is there left for her to do? Pack the bags and leave. She probably doesn't need to be in Toastmasters, right? So be very realistic about the feedback you're providing and try to avoid superlatives until and unless that speaker really demanded the use of that superlative. It was so fantastic that you have to use it. So use it with caution. Coming next to Suresha. Suresha, you also did congratulate Bindu. I would say probably use that time elsewhere for a more meaningful sentence. Suresha, you mentioned that Bindu had a great opening, which I completely disagree with. I thought her opening was one of the weaker aspects of the speech. And again, it all boils down to evaluations being subjective. If you are telling us that the great opening was a highlight, you have to justify it. You told her that you liked the structuring of her speech, which was great opening, body, and conclusion. And again, I felt the structuring was one of the biggest issues, where the story about the mentor suddenly came in between, and suddenly there was a conclusion without her really telling us her development process and how she went full circle. And it suddenly ended with the phrase, break the ice. So I thought, again, the structure was something that was lacking. And you mentioned that as a highlight. You told us that her hand movements were good. I didn't quite notice it as anything particularly standout, but fair enough. You use and I quote from your evaluation, you use the lemon and we all could relate. Personally, I was a little lost at the lemon story. And when you said we all could relate, that made me even more confused. So maybe this is just a personal thing because I felt the lemon story didn't come off as very relatable, but all power to you if you thought so. You mentioned that her conclusion was good. I would have liked to see more in her conclusion about the character development, about all the subsequent speeches that followed that turned her from a monochromatic speaker to a one with a vibrant vocal variety. That was the piece that was missing, and that was the piece which would have highlighted how much her mentor has helped her in her transformation journey. So I feel that the conclusion could have been better, which is in disagreement with what you said. Your last two areas of improvement were introduction of characters and voice modulation. I feel both of these could have been the same point. You could have demonstrated by saying, Toastmaster Bindu, when you're having the conversation with Mrs. A, why don't you vary your voice? For example, I don't know, I'm just so lost. Can you help me? Yeah, sure. You're Bindu, right? Yeah, and you're Mrs. A. Hi, nice to meet you. See, and with that, I demonstrated just now how I would have used vocal variety and modulation for that conversation. And I covered both of your areas of improvement. Try to make it efficient because, again, time is an asset in evaluations. The last blanket piece of feedback I would like to give to Toastmasters, Suresha, Vijay, and Gokula is the conclusion is the most important part. You need to spend a good 25 to 30 seconds summarizing all the areas of improvement and all the highlights you mentioned in the prior 3 minutes and present it in a concise package and then leave. Why is this? I recommend all of you to go through the speech evaluation judging ballot where a conclusion has a lot of weightage in terms of points. If your conclusion is something as simple as, it was a great speech, all the best for your next speech, you're putting yourself on the back foot. People are gonna race ahead of you in the contest. You need to make sure your conclusion has meaning. For example, what would I do? So in conclusion, Toastmaster Bindu, while I felt that the objectives could have been met a little better, and while I thought that the structure had a few dead ends at certain points that left me a little confused, overall, I thought if you can work on these 2 points and couple them with your great use of facial expressions and the slivers of good vocal variety that you possess, that you would have a great speech on your hand the next time you try this. All the best, Bindu. Back to the contest master. Confident, clean conclusion, handing it back to the contest master. All of these things are so paramount in a speech evaluation contest. So that wraps up my feedback for the 3 speakers, the speech evaluators, and for the speaker Bindu as well. And with that, I will hand the control back to Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Akshay, for that very enlightening evaluation. There's a lot of lessons I learned today, and it's a fact that receiving and applying feedback is a skill, right? And showed us how we can initiate our journey to mastering the skill. Thank you again, Toastmaster Akshay.
Thank you.
Now we are coming on to the last part of our session today for the Q&A round. I know a lot of you all have questions to answer, to ask Toastmaster Akshay. But I'd like to begin with the first question. Toastmaster Akshay, I'm a Toastmaster who has never done an evaluation before. What suggestions would you give to a Toastmaster who wants to try their hand at evaluation? Who is a new Toastmaster who has never done it before?
Be authentic.
Be
Simple.
authentic.
One of the biggest mistakes people make as evaluators is to be too saccharine, too overly motivational, too encouraging to the point of disingenuity. You need to be authentic is the most important aspect of any speech evaluation. And also, I think the second point comes with practice, but the analytical ability matters. In those 3 minutes, are you really presenting the most important areas of improvement, or did you just miss the really important parts and mention something trivial? That is something that comes with practice, but authenticity is something that has to be there from the get-go.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Alok, you had a question? Toastmaster.
Yeah. So first of all, Akshay, thank you very much for giving very wonderful insight. I really enjoyed each and every piece of evaluation you really did. Just I'm trying to bring up whenever I do evaluation, many times I feel problem. Just I wanted your piece of advice, like when I was thinking myself as an evaluator when Bindu was delivering the speech, and I was wondering what are the area I'm going to evaluate if I would have an evaluator. And I was thinking like, oh, her body gesture is very apt to everything. Only piece of advice, if I could have given conclusion was not very outstanding where I can take the message home. And many times other evaluation also, I feel that body gesture or because sometimes the body gesture is so obvious that I don't find that how to give that on the body gesture. And many speaker keep telling about like, okay, your body gesture or vocal variety. So I sometimes really get confused, like, is it area of improvement or is it she is good? So like I wanted your thought in this case. Let's say Bindu was there, so I was feeling that she has all the areas pretty good as a evaluation we are starting in the beginning. So how to take care of those aspects of that? Any suggestion?
Toastmaster Alok, I would like to preface by saying that I'm a terrible cook. Not average, not great. I'm a terrible cook. Okay. You put me in a kitchen, I have no idea what I'm doing. Now, a byproduct of this poor illness of mine is that because I'm a terrible cook, I don't understand food. So this has happened so many times when I'm tasting a dish that a friend or a partner has made and I eat it. I'm like, it's great. And then a friend next to me would be like, but wait, what about the salt? What about the vegetables? Don't you feel this could have been added? What about that ingredient? Why not add this instead? Because it's too spicy. What about the sweetness portion? And I say, it tastes fine to me. How is Toastmasters any different from that? Not at all. The most important thing that you will learn, Alok, is that if you're finding that you're at loss of words for a speaker in terms of areas of improvement, it simply means that it is time for you to watch more speeches. It's time for you to do more pathways projects. And that's the beauty of Toastmasters. Toastmasters has such a great pathways program that by the time you're done with level 5, you will have such a deep understanding of the myriad of nuances of public speaking that even if a world championship of public speaking is thrown at your face, you will find an area of improvement, right? So why did I talk about the cook thing? Well, it's because I'm not proficient in it. I've not been in that space for long enough, right? And I totally resonate with you. I was also initially at a phase where, what do I recommend when I was new to Toastmasters? But it was through watching a lot of speeches, being consistent with my own speeches, and going through pathways where my view was broadened and my evaluations became more impactful. And I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very awesome. You have related with the cook. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Toastmaster Maluka, you had a question.
Yeah, I have a question. Akshay, you said that an evaluator needs to be authentic when they're giving an evaluation. But many a times we are told that we need to, like the sandwich method, right? The positive and the negative and the positive, because we want a speaker not to get discouraged by an evaluation, so that they come back to the stage and, they keep repeating the process of giving speeches and not feel discouraged and run away from the stage. And so because with that mindset, when we give an evaluation, we try to make it lean more towards the positive. And you said the disingenuous commentary about, wonderful and spectacular and all of those things. I think those words kind of creep into your evaluation just so that you encourage a speaker to come back on stage and give a speech. So how do you balance that out? How do you be genuine without discouraging a speaker and, not come across too harsh and too critical of a speech?
Thank you for the question, Malvika. I think the most important aspect of being encouraging, in fact, it's twofold. There are two important aspects. It's the tone in which you deliver your feedback, and it's the words that you use. For example, when I was talking about Bindu's speech, I mentioned very specifically, Toastmaster Bindu, I felt in your speech, there were slivers of great vocal variety. That's exactly what I said. Did I say your vocal variety was fantastic? No. Did I say your vocal variety was fantastic or lovely throughout? No. I stuck very true to my take of the speech, that I felt that there were slivers of great vocal variety. That coupled with a positive tone is enough, right? Take whatever has happened, whatever the speaker has done on stage, and tell yourself, how can I present this in a way that is true to what actually happened on stage? And once you've done that, make sure you present it in a positive way with the words that you choose and the tone of your voice, and also your facial expressions, right? And this is where, to answer your question, tone of your voice matters, facial expressions and empathy matters, and also your choice of words matter. Be very careful about the choice of words. You would have noticed when I was evaluating these speakers, a lot of them, I called them out for specific words that they used, which didn't make sense to me, right? And you can expect this from a judge as well, right? So just be very careful with your words too. Thank you.
Toastmaster Anjana, do you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Akshay. So my question is not related to today's speech, but generally, I always struggle with how I should start the evaluation. I'm not talking about the positives. I'm talking about when we begin. Like you said, don't waste time in congratulating the speaker. But normally we always hear that, start with, a catchy sentence or a line. Sometimes it's difficult. And I noticed today you just dived straight into the evaluation without, wasting much time. So what do you suggest is a good method? Especially for an evaluation contest, I'm talking.
Start with a very brief introduction, right? I didn't exactly dive in right into the speech. What I did was, Toastmaster Bindu, today you attempted a project on introduction to Toastmasters mentoring. Here are what I thought were the positives. Now, a lot of people kind of ask this, why don't you start with something more catchy, like a quote from Mahatma Gandhi? No, right? Imagine if you were in a meeting room and getting evaluated by your manager or your boss. And your manager started by saying, Mahatma Gandhi once said, like, what am I listening to this for? I'm not here to get some feedback. Now, that is where the entire point for speech evaluation comes into play, right? Every second matters. So if you can keep your introduction and start to the speech very crisp, it gives you more time to spend on highlights and areas of improvement. Areas of improvement is the main point scorer, again, from a contest perspective, because areas of improvement are where your analytical ability are tested. Are you really looking into the nitty-gritties of a speech? Are you analyzing and pinpointing correctly that these are the areas which really need to be improved, right? But if you sacrifice time from there to spend on a very catchy introduction where you say, roses are red, violets are blue. Today, I was astounded by you, Bindu. Toastmaster Bindu, you were so wonderful. Let me start by telling you that I was so moved and we were also moved. And now let me get into the highlights. Well, congratulations. You've just lost 25 seconds. Those 25 seconds are going to be used by your peers to do what a speech evaluation is all about. Give meaningful feedback. To summarize my answer to you, Anjana, keep your introduction very concise, similar to how I did, and just try to get into the meat of the matter, which is the highlights and the areas of improvement as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Toastmaster.
I just wanted to talk from like a contest point of view, since you obviously have so much experience giving contests and taking part in contests, and like, what would be the one piece of advice you would give people who are attempting to go for the evaluation or any contest for that matter?
Any contest or evaluation contest?
I mean, we have the table topics and evaluation contest coming up, so maybe for the two of them.
Okay, my biggest piece of feedback is recognize that Unlike the international speech contest and the table topic contest, an evaluation contest is a completely different ball game. An evaluation contest is not about entertainment. It is not about grandstanding, making you the center of attention. A speech evaluation contest is about making the speaker and your feedback about the speaker the center of attention. As someone who has been evaluating for the longest time, the biggest mistake people make at contests is that they treat the speech evaluation contest as an ISC or a table topics contest where they think, I have to be entertaining. And that comes at the expense of really demeaning the entire purpose of a speech evaluation contest. So my biggest piece of advice for ISC and TT, kill it. The call to action, the entertainment quotient, originality matters. But for the evaluation contest, your feedback matters. How much you make the speaker be the center of attention matters.
Sima, you have a question? Toastmaster.
Good evening, Akshay. I have a question. You didn't take much time after that last evaluator completed his evaluation. So how are you able to consolidate all your observations and start your chief evaluations? Looks like okay, have a great way of taking the notes. So can you give some insight on that part?
Practice, my friend.
Okay.
Experience. I've been in the fraternity for 5 years now. You know,
Okay.
in Toastmasters meetings, I just challenge myself. Now, if I am the designated speech evaluator for any speaker, first thing, I always recommend to people in my club, if you're an evaluator, once the speaker is done, you spend only 5 minutes writing, then keep your sheet away. Because a
Okay.
lot of people will spend time writing for 40 minutes, then they start doodling and getting really creative and writing an entire script. Nobody wants that in a speech evaluation contest. The area that is being trained with speech evaluation isn't the same area as being trained with ICNTT. The area of your mind being trained is quick analytical ability, right? Are you quickly able to analyze what are the areas of improvement and the highlights and recognize them correctly, right? And that only comes with practice. So what I would recommend for you, Simha, take more evaluation roles. And I do. Can you tell me if you have attended an evaluation before so far? Not
Not
yet.
no.
So
Not yet. Yeah.
first speech evaluation and maybe give yourself 15 minutes to write everything down and prepare the content in your head for 5 minutes. The next evaluation you come on stage, give yourself 14 minutes and maybe 2 minutes to prepare all the content in your head. The next evaluation you do, spend 13 minutes, then 12, then 11, then 10. Eventually, you will reach to the contest allotted time of 5 minutes because in speech evaluation contests, all evaluators are given 5 minutes to write down their notes, right? And then you will eventually start getting to realize that, oh, wow, I'm able to recognize things very quickly, right? So watch more speeches. You also do more speeches and practice speech evaluations as often as you can.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else? Okay. Suresh, you have a question?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Akshay, for that evaluation. My question is, in the evaluation contest, can we use the notes, whatever we have written, to give the feedback to the speaker, or we have to memorize and we have to give the evaluation?
Absolutely take your notes. There is nothing on the ballot which gives you extra points for memorizing your evaluation. And the reason I endorse taking your notes is because it ensures you're more accurate about what you talk about. Take it from me, someone who has won the contest 2 years in a row. The first thing people always come to me and ask, they're like, why did you use your notes? You should have by-hearted everything and presented it. No, I'm not there to be entertaining. I'm there to give meaningful feedback. I'm not there to memorize what I can as much as I can in 5 minutes. I'm there to give value to the speaker. So when you give value to a speaker, memorizing doesn't matter. Now, obviously, there's a trade-off. That doesn't mean if this is your sheet, you're looking at it all the time going, Toastmaster, John, I thought I did. No, that's not how it works either. You can refer to it every now and then, right? And eventually see if you can use it as less as possible, but definitely use it if you want to. This is not a memorizing contest.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Suresh. Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, I just have one last question. So I mean, this is something that I find very difficult when I'm evaluating, because I don't know, if I'm not paying attention to the speaker, I feel like I miss out on the speech. So I always pay attention and then afterwards write down notes. But obviously, you were able to write while you were listening, and you didn't have too much issues with that thing. So so I wanted to ask you, like, how do you train yourself to be able to listen and write without confusing or without pacing out and losing out on the speech and the characteristics and details or whatever it is that you're trying to work, include in your evaluations?
Understood. So to keep this answer very concise, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here and repeating the same point. I think a lot of this has come with practice, and I think it's very important. And this is a point of advice I give to a lot of people in my evaluation workshops. It's called the 70-30 rule. Spend 70% of your time experiencing the speech and 30% writing it down. You mentioned that, Malvika, you sometimes write after the speech is over. Do not do that, especially if there are key phrases. It is imperative that you write them down accurately. So if you're going to quote them, it does justice to what the speaker actually did. So that's something I wouldn't recommend. Definitely take down important points when they happen. But also, I think with practice, what's going to happen is find a way to jot down your notes really quickly. Don't jot everything down. Sometimes people end up being a copywriter and taking down the entire 7-minute speech script. Don't do that either. The entire purpose of notes is to take down key phrases. Key phrases, also known as phrases that brought the speech up and phrases that brought the speech down. And when you realize that those are the only notes you have to take, turns out that your notes are very, very short. And I can't show this because Zoom blurred my thing, but I don't have much notes either. Okay. So yeah, majority of the speech has to be, the speaker's speech has to be in your head and key phrases on the sheet of paper.
Toastmaster Bindu. Toastmaster Bindu. Can you hear us?
Aaron, you're not audible actually.
Hello. Can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Bindu, do you have a question for us for Akshay?
Yes, but I would like to ask this question only if I have permission to do so. It's not from an evaluation contest perspective, but it's rather as a evaluator perspective. So I don't want to waste Akshay's time here.
Oh, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, Akshay, this is a rare scenario advice that I require. I tend to be a little, let's say, bold and blunt in few of my evaluations, which I consider as perhaps an asset as well as a downfall. Now, especially in certain scenarios where the speaker, in my opinion, is doing the speech just for the heck of doing the speech. A lot of people are on their DTM track and they just want to finish off their levels. I know that the speaker has a lot of potential, could do better, but doesn't have the interest to do it. And I also feel that that particular speech has just wasted 5 to 7 minutes of the audience time. How do you diplomatically do an evaluation in that scenario without you feeling bad afterwards that you've not done justice to the speaker in any way, without also knowing that you've not done justice to the audience by pointing it out? You know, that balance. How do you diplomatically address that scenario?
I think this is the best question I have ever received, ever. It's so, so bold, and a lot of people don't ask this question. It is true, especially when people are much advanced in their Toastmasters journey. Sometimes they tend to phone it in. So my piece of advice is you definitely jot down the myriad of areas of improvement, the 7 to 10 areas of improvement on your sheet, right? When you're presenting your evaluation on the stage, definitely all the rules of a speech evaluation apply. You have to be diplomatic, you have to be nice, right? And try to limit yourself to the 3 major areas of improvement, right? You can't just necessarily go on stage and say, See, as an area of improvement, Toastmaster John, you were unprepared, because that's not an area of improvement. Rather, take the aspect of the speech which felt the weakest and maybe attribute it by saying more practice is required. For example, Toastmaster John, in your advanced DTM speech, I noticed that there were many points in your speech where you paused for a break. And at one point, you even looked at the audience for a good long 10-second break, after which you subsequently went to your phone. I felt this could reflect on a lack of practice, and what I would recommend going forward in your advanced projects is to practice more often, especially for a project of this stature. And I think that would go a long way in making your speech more impactful. So that's what I would do on stage. Now, personally, Bindu, between you and me, I hope nobody else is listening. What I would generally do off stage is go to that person and give them like a piece of my mind. A piece of my mind, because I totally agree with you. Sometimes people don't take speeches seriously, and sometimes we have to be very honest. Sometimes people, in the quest of not taking speeches seriously, end up wasting time. And if this person happens to be someone close to you, and if you think the person can take it, please, by all means, go ahead and do it, because I think it's for the betterment of the quality of speeches in our district. Sometimes you have to be blunt, especially if it's a repeat offender, then all the more important to do that.
Thank you, Akshay. That's one of the best answers I could ever have for that. And I will definitely follow it up.
Okay.
You, Bindu. I think we have time for the overtime here, but I think we can take one more question. Alok, do you have a question to ask Akshay?
Yes, one question I was trying to understand. Many times when speaker is delivering his or her speech, I am writing down some of the point, but body gesture, I am missing that. So how to balance when I'm writing at the same time, ensuring that I'm not missing any piece of things?
This is where I totally get your question, Alok. This is where I feel the beauty of a speech evaluation contest comes to the forefront, because it's not just about the 3 minutes on stage. Your contest begins the moment you start writing. A lot of people don't recognize it's actually an 8 to 10 minute contest. What I do is I've started to perfect this art of blind writing, where I'm writing and looking up, down, up, down. And that's the only way. It's kind of like what I mentioned earlier. It's the 70-30 rule. You want to experience 70% of the speech, and 30% you do have to spend writing. Does that mean there are portions of the speech you may miss, especially if the gesture is so fleeting and so quick? Yes, it is going to happen. But we are only human, right? This is the human limits we are pushing. So obviously, the more time you can spend looking on the stage, the better. But that's something I would recommend you try to practice. I didn't have a term for it up until 10 seconds ago. Apparently, it's called blind writing. Because my handwriting is the worst. I have the handwriting of a kindergarten student. But what's important is you're able to understand your handwriting, right? And I generally try to write as much as I can by not looking at the piece of sheet and looking on the stage, especially if it's a contest, so that I don't miss anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you very much.
I think that's all the time we have for the Q&A session. Thank you, Akshay, again for those very insightful answers. You've opened up my mind to the various possibilities here. And actually, that brings us to the end of the talk, the contest special evaluation workshop. Just one last thing, I appreciate the speaker, Toastmaster Bindu, the evaluators and the role takers for participating in our workshop today. And a big thanks again to Toastmaster Akshay for sharing that very insightful evaluation session. I can proudly say, even though I'm far off, I've not even begun my evaluation, I can proudly say there's a lot of lessons in addition to the multitude of lessons I have to learn that I'll be working on from today. I also thank everyone who joined us today, the members and the guests. I'm sure, like me, there's a lot of lessons you'll be taking home. Just a quick reminder, we have our Talk Magic Club contest on the 4th of November at 2:45 p.m. So attend the meeting and see our contestants grace the stage with their insightful evaluations and table topic speeches. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting this workshop, and I wish you all a wonderful evening ahead.
Could we get a screen grab of everyone before we go?
Absolutely. Malvika, will you be able to take care of that?
I've taken the screen back. It's done.
Thank you so much, Malvika. Again, thank you everyone for joining the meeting today, and have a great evening ahead.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye.
You know,
Good day.